Oh fuck! I gotta cut that. What is up? 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 Grocknation. Welcome back to the arcade this evening for another Grock stories. I actually thought about telling this story since around Christmas time, as I told this story quite a bit during the holidays for good laughs, and it's a funny story in general. Before we get started, I want to give you guys kind of a heads up or an update of where I've been. Obviously, last week I uploaded 5 videos, and you haven't heard from me in like 10 days. Well, I actually finally caught my fiance's cold that she got from Christmas. We had sick people at our table at Christmas time, and it finally got around to me, and it KO'd me. I actually called in sick for more than 1 day straight, which is very, very rare for me. So, yeah, that's where I've been. So I'm off until Friday night. I definitely was planning on doing a Spooky Stories, the newest edition of Spooky Stories this week. I think I still might. I got a really amazing topic that I think everyone's gonna love. But yeah, let's get into this story. Again, guys, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you like these stories, especially this story, give it a thumbs up so others find it. I, for one, love ASMR stories, especially soft-spoken ones like this, or soft-whispered ones, sorry. This one is kind of humorous, I'm not gonna lie. It'll be hard not to laugh out loud for myself personally telling this story. So just be warned, if you're listening to this as background noise, you fall asleep and you're actually listening and paying attention, you might actually have a good laugh. So, with that, let's dive into this story. Okay, so before we start the story, we have to rewind all the way back to the year 2004. Diddle-a-loop. That's a Wayne's World reference for my non-millennials out there. The year 2004. As I explained to you guys in my life story, I'll actually keep that link in one of the annotations above for you if you guys want to click on that and check that video out. Very, very good video. In the year 2004, I actually moved to the little town of Churchill, Manitoba, in the north of Manitoba, right in the Hudson Bay. In a fallout of my mother passing away, I actually moved in with a very, very abusive aunt. We're not going to get into that though, that's a whole other can of worms. My time in Churchill actually might be something of an interest for future stories. There's a lot of crazy shit that went on up there. But for this one, we're gonna talk about a little trip I did while I was in Churchill to the city of Winnipeg, Manitoba. So all my Winnipeg viewers out there that found this video by searching Winnipeg, you're gonna hear a lot about it in this video. So when I moved to Churchill, Manitoba in 2004, I was in grade 11. Half grade 11, half grade 12. I told you guys that when I was in Saskatchewan transferring schools, because I missed the semester break, made me do half a semester in a correspondence school that only offered one course. So already I was half a semester behind everybody else my age. Now when I moved to Churchill, Churchill was kind of a unique situation. First off, if no one here is aware of what Churchill, Manitoba is, it's a tiny little isolated community in northern Manitoba, right on the Hudson Bay. It is known globally as the polar bear capital of the world. People travel there from all over the world to see polar bears. They all pass through that town during their migration, and the population of Churchill goes up by 10, like 10 times more with all the tourists that show up there. And believe it or not, the bears still outnumber all the town people and the tourists. It's a crazy, crazy, crazy place. And it's a crazy time, exciting time during bear season. But it's an isolated little community. You can only get in from plane or train. And yeah, I don't want to touch too much on Churchill though, in terms of how they were and how people were and whatnot. There's stories to tell here for sure, but the bottom line is, um, the school that is in Churchill is called Duke of Marlborough School. It's K to 12. It's 2 floors and it's inside the complex. In Churchill, Manitoba, there's a massive, massive, massive complex building in the center of town that houses everything: movie theaters, restaurants, bowling alleys, the hospitals, the clinics, the schools, gyms, curling rinks, hockey rinks. Like I said, numerous cafes, restaurants, that sort of thing. Number one for the cold because it's Arctic weather, especially in the wintertime. And number two, safety for the bears that are roaming down all day long during polar bear season. It's like a safe haven. Once you drive and you park at the complex and you go inside, everything's right there. There's no need to go out in the frigid Arctic weather. So Duke of Marlborough School is in this complex. It's actually at the very front of the complex, and it's 2 stories. The bottom floor is K to 7, and the top floor is 8 to 12. I believe it was 8 to 12, I'm not entirely sure. The bottom line is, there was like 20 kids in the high school portion on top, the top floor, when I went to school there. And because they have such small classes, like the graduating class that year had 2 people, that was it. Classes are chosen the year prior. The kids choose the classes. Like, they need a social studies, so they'll vote on 3 topics for social studies, either whether it be Native American studies or history or anything like that. They got to vote on everything. So when I got to Churchill, everything that they had that they were taking for that semester, I had already taken and I'd already passed. There was no need for me to continue going to school. I actually told my aunt I might as well take half a year off and just work, which I was doing. And she, being the bitch she was like, no, you're just going to upgrade those classes. I'm like, these classes were fine. They were all 80s and 90s. There's no need to upgrade anything. Well, the only class that they offered for me, they made an exception for me because they only take 4 students in this class, is a class called Careers class, which is offered to kids in these communities, like Churchill, isolated communities. And basically what it is it's getting them ready for leaving Churchill or leaving that small community. You study up on jobs, you study up on work schedules and all this stuff, and basically to help get you out of this community. They only take 4 kids because, and they all fight for this class because there's no final exam. The final exam is you move to Winnipeg for a week, and you house with another student in a family home, like foster parents basically, and you intend to work for a week. So everyone fights to try to get this class when it's offered. It's not offered every year, so they get a free trip to the city. A plane trip from Churchill to Winnipeg returns probably about $2,000, so it's not a cheap flight. A lot of these people in Churchill, again, I don't want to touch too much on it, some of them have never left Churchill, at that point anyway, as teenagers, as kids. So, because it was a course that I needed, like I didn't have, and it would count towards a credit, they made the exception and they put me in there as the 5th kid. There was me and 4 other girls, including a friend of mine. And, yeah, so I think I don't even remember. I can't tell you what the classes consisted of. I can't even think to what they would consist of now as an adult looking back on it. What on earth would they have consisted of? The bottom line is, the month of April, the very first week, I actually found out the exact dates I was there, by the way. A lady from this program came to Churchill and had a meeting with us. And we had to choose our careers and all this stuff and what we're going to be doing in Winnipeg. And I remember she gave us a big, like, duotang of jobs we would sign up for, and then they would get a hold of them in the city and line us up with them. This is where my Winnipeg people are going to, like, recognize things here. So, these girls all picked really smart, good jobs. I mean, the one girl picked She wanted to be a conservation officer, which is really huge in Churchill, especially around polar bear season. They didn't offer that in Winnipeg, but they did offer, like, she went and rode with the RCMP for a week. The next best thing, I guess, or next closest thing. Another one was like a nurse, and another one was working for, I can't remember if it was like an ambulance or a firehouse, something like that, like actual careers. My friend who was in there, Danielle, her name was, we were looking through the duotang, and I asked her, as we were looking, I said, what is the, I've never been to Winnipeg, she'd been there quite a bit. She was kind of wealthy, her parents owned one of the tour shops in Churchill. A lot of the kids in Churchill are either poor and they're stuck there because their parents just are stuck there, or they're very rich. There's very few in between, like us, like we were in between. They're very rich because their parents have something to do with tourist seasons. You own a company, whether it be a hotel, a tour shop, or a tour group or something. They own something. And she had been to Winnipeg quite a bit. Her dad actually was working at the airport, so she had really cheap flights. I think that's what it was. As well, he owned one of the tour shops in town. But regardless, I asked her, I said, what is the nicest mall in Winnipeg? And she told me Polo Park. That's the nicest mall back in 2004. I think technically mall-wise, I think it still is. Although St. Fidel has a very, very special place in my heart, but we'll get to that in another story. So I said, okay, and I flipped through the duotang and I found what I was looking for. So when it got to me, my turn, because the lady was asking everybody and they were all telling them what they wanted to work as. When it got to me, she said, okay, Randy, where do you want to work? And I said, and I pulled the page open, I said, I want to work at HMV in Polo Park. And I remember everyone, all the girls started laughing. And she kind of looked surprised, like she was taken back. And she says, oh, you want to go into sales for a career, is that it? And I said, yeah, sure. And she's like, okay, I'll see what I can do. And I remember they were all asking me, those girls afterwards, like, why would you choose HMV in a mall? And look, I come from a city, so I'm aware HMV, especially in 2004, for those of you, my non-millennials, maybe that have never seen an HMV, it's like a Sunrise Records. It was a really cool place, go there, listen to music, and there's movies and music and hoodies and posters, and I thought it would be a really cool place to hang out for a week, and most importantly, because it's the most popular mall in Winnipeg, I'd meet girls, there'd be lots of girls there. That's all I was thinking about. So that was my reasoning for picking HMV in Polo Park. So, the time came. My friend ended up dropping out for some reason. She couldn't make it to the trip, and she didn't drop out, she couldn't make the trip. I think she was very ill, if I remember correctly, because she worked with me as well. The day came, we had to fly down to Winnipeg, and I think it was a Sunday. I found the exact dates I was there, from the 25th to the 30th. Sunday was the 25th of 2004, April. About 10 in the morning, I got to the airport. About 11:30, we started to fly, and we got to Winnipeg. We're on 3. I think it's like a 4-hour flight. But when we landed, we had to hang around the airport for a long time. It was like an hour and a half. And this program rented a boardroom at the Winnipeg airport. So we had to wait because there was another community nearby called Snow Lake, where they had 10 kids that were also in this program. Snow Lake was a very similar situation like Churchill, except it's not as isolated. Still, it's a small community. And we had to wait for them. They were coming down in a van because it's a 6-hour drive from Winnipeg. So they finally made it, and we had this big boardroom to ourselves. And then this blonde woman, her last name was Clausen. I think her first name was Andrea. I can't remember exactly. Clausen for sure. Beautiful, blue-eyed, blonde-haired woman. If I were to age her now, it's hard when you look back when you're a teenager and you want to age people. She was young, but I'd say she was about 28, 30 years old, probably. And I was very flirty with her and very jokey with her, like class clown. I was really making, all the kids laugh. There was like 4 guys and 4 girls from that area of town. And then my 3 girls from my town as well. 3. Yeah, Daniel couldn't make it. And I brought a camcorder. My aunt's camcorder I brought with me, so I was kind of clowning with her while she was doing all the introductions. I was zooming in on her and everything else. It was kind of funny. And then she was listing out the jobs for everyone was going to be working that week, and of course everyone had cool career jobs. And it got to me, and she said Randy HMV, and everyone started laughing because she said HMV in Portage Place. And I remember everyone's laughing. I'm going, I thought there was a park. And I said, excuse me, what happened to the park mall? And she said, well, the park is not doing the student hiring right now. They're fully staffed, and but Portage Place was willing to make the accommodations. So everyone's laughing, and I asked one of the Churchill girls, Delia, her name was, a sweet kid. She was like 14 years old at the time. And she said, because I knew she'd been to Winnipeg, Portage Place is like the grubby mall, like it's the bad mall of Winnipeg. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So I went from the best mall to the grubby mall, and everyone's laughing because I chose HMV. So after that, we all went to Olive Garden, and we all had supper. They bought us supper, which was very nice of them. And it was late, man. By the time we got out of there, it was around 7, and by the time we got out of Olive Garden, it was like 9:30, almost 10. And we had to get into 2 vans. And one of the Churchill chaperones, which was a teacher's aide, was an older gentleman called Bill McPherson, or Bill as we called him. He was driving our van. And in our van, we had 2 of the Churchill girls. One of the Churchill girls got in the other van. We had 2 of the Snow Lake guys, and we had a Snow Lake girl. And we started driving, and everyone was getting dropped off at their houses. The Churchill girls got one house to themselves. One of the other Churchill girls had to bunk with some of the Snow Lake girls. Or guys, I don't know. And we dropped off 2 of the Snow Lake guys somewhere in a village. Now that I know Winnipeg, it was somewhere in Osborne Village. Nice area. It was like a townhouse. And then I was in the car with one of these Snow Lake girls. For the sake of the story, I'm going to call her Angela. And because I don't want to name names, there's some embarrassing shit in here I'm going to tell you. You guys are going to hear. In case one day she comes across this and she's like, oh, thank God I didn't use my name. And we were driving, and I'm like, so this is my roommate, this girl, this stranger, or worse yet, are we going to be putting houses by ourselves, which basically is what's going to happen because she's a stranger, I'm thinking. Now, for a long time, before I really got to know the city of Winnipeg, I go to Winnipeg, I want to say at least 5 to 6 times a year for at least a week at a time, just for shopping, visiting family, whatnot, and flying out of. So I'm really aware of the city now, all this time later, and I know where we were. We were in the north end of Winnipeg, the bad north end. It's a 7-Eleven that's near these brick low-income apartment buildings. They're brown brick, and there's a 7-Eleven there. I always drive past 2 7-Elevens that are near buildings like that, and I know this house is somewhere down that street. It's a street of old World War II houses. For those of you that don't know what World War II houses are, you don't know what I'm talking about. They were in the fallout of the Second World War. The Canadian government mass-produced these neighborhoods of these little tiny houses to fit as many of them on a block as possible to make housing for all these immigrants coming over from Europe. And these houses are still there to this day. They're very aged, I guess you could say. And for the most part, they're for low-income housing people, or middle to low-income housing. You'll find wealthy people living in them. I like them personally because they have a lot of character. They're very old, but they're very low-income, like low-income families. I was poor growing up, and that was one of the houses we lived in. So it was a whole street of World War II houses, and I'm like, it was dark. It was after 10, and I'm like, oh my God, is this where I'm going to be staying? Like, so we pull up in front of this house, and I really want to find this. I was debating going on Google Earth for this video and trying to find it with you guys. There's a schoolyard either right in front of it on the same block or just up the block. You can see a schoolyard. Bill got out of the van. He said, okay, you guys are here. So I'm like, okay, so I'm staying here. And I guess she's staying with me. So as soon as we got out, I introduced myself, and she said, "It's Angela." I said, "Yeah." Kind of met her at the boardroom, but I had the camcorder. I was recording the whole thing. I wish to God I had that tape because I would actually be showing it on here. As we were approaching the house, I was looking into the window because the window was cracked, the front window, and I could hear laughter, and a movie was on. And so I kind of zoomed in on a video and looked inside the window, and it was two little kids, little boys, little black boys. There was one, I think he was about 11, maybe 12. The oldest one, and the younger one was like 10 or 9. They were like brothers. Damon, or something like that, his name was. But I remember Bill knocked on a door, and that kid came, and he said his name was Damon or whatever. And Bill's like, "Hi, is Renee home?" Always remember the name Renee. And he says, "No, she's not right now." And right away, I'm like, "Wait a second," and I'm looking at, Angela, and then looking at Bill, and he goes, "Oh, well, you know who these are. These are the students she agreed to take for the week." And I remember he was like, "No, I don't know." He goes, "You don't know?" He goes, "No." He goes, "Yeah, well, these are the ones she decided to take." And he goes, "Oh, okay." He goes, "Okay, so it's okay if they wait here. Is she coming back soon, or she should be back soon," he said. And he's like, "Okay, well, then I'll leave them here." And so I'm zooming in on his face at this point as the kid goes around the corner. I'm like, "Bill, what the fuck?" And he goes, "Randy, just get inside." So we go inside. Me and her, we put our bags down. And I remember sitting at, there was a lounging chair there, which I can only ever describe as it was very well worn. It almost looks like it was taken from an alley, like someone threw it out. Like, I sat in it, and it was all the way up here, the arms. Like, the arms were all the way up here, and I was sitting in it. It was that deep. And Samantha, or Angela, sat in an armchair, the arm part of it. And Bill sat there for maybe like a minute, and he's like, "Okay, well, I'm going to take off then. I'll be picking you guys up in the morning to take you to your first day of work." And I'm giving him eyes like this, like, and he just leaves. Kind of laughs to himself and he leaves. And I'm sitting there going, "Oh my God." So these kids are watching Fast and Furious 2, by the way. And they were both laughing, sitting there. And I was tired. It was a long day for me. I'm sure it was for her, too. Now it's getting close to 11 o'clock at night. If not, it was 11. And I asked the kid, after about 20 minutes, I'm falling asleep sitting there. You gotta remember, guys, this is 2004. There's no cell phones. We don't have cell phones to occupy ourselves. We're just sitting there. And I say, "Excuse me, buddy. I'm trying to be respectful because from looking around the house and just the smell of the house, I could tell this was a poor house. Like, these were poor people, being poor myself growing up. There was a little bit of laundry laying around everywhere. It was kind of unkempt and it had that smell." I said, "Hey, buddy." And, Damon looked over and I said, "You know where our bedroom would be? Like, just kind of want to, like, just relax. We're kind of tired." And he says, "I guess it would be here." And it was literally in the living room. There's a door there. And I got my bag. What I really wanted was just to get alone with Angela and just go, like, ask her what the hell we're going to do. So he said, "Right there." And I said, "Okay, right here." And I played it cool. And I walked over to the door. The door didn't have a doorknob. It had duct tape with a string going through the hole of where the doorknob was supposed to be. And it was duct tape on your side, so you could pull the string to open it on one side and pull it to close it on the other. So I remember pointing at the door. "This one here," I said. And he says, "Yeah, that's the one." And I said, "Okay, cool, cool." Again, trying not to sound embarrassed or, embarrass them. So I pull the door open. I go in there and I pull it closed behind us. And we both, our mouths both mouthed "what the fuck" or "whoa," whatever it was, together at the same time. And we looked in a room, and it was a single mattress on a floor with no sheet, like a blanket over top of it, not a adult-sized blanket, like a kid-sized blanket, and a blue cushion. And in a very corner of the room was like one of those old hospital bed frames, those springy bed frames. It was folded up. That was obviously for that mattress. And in the corner was a closet, and it was empty except for a pile of clothes at the bottom of it. So we looked around there, and I was going, "Oh my God." She said, "This can't be our room." I was like, "I don't think it is." but, I was thinking to myself, like, the layout of this house, it's so small. There's probably 2 rooms upstairs, and that's it. There's no way that there's rooms for us upstairs, is what I was thinking. So I was like, hey, there might be some misunderstanding here. Maybe when she gets home, she'll be like, oh my goodness, no, we're staying down here, you guys are gonna stay upstairs, or something like that. Or, maybe we're in the wrong fucking house. I don't know. But I thought, let's just wait for this woman to get home. And if worst case scenario, you want to go to sleep here, I could sleep on the floor, you could sleep on the mattress. And she was nice, and she said, no, it's fine. We'll sleep on a mattress together. We'll sleep head to toe, which I was really insecure about because I was sitting in my shoes all day, and I'm like, she's going to say my feet stink. So we sat in a bed and just bullshit for a bit, and about 20 minutes, half hour went by. I remember she was trying to take a nap. She was laying on the cushion, and she was adjusting the cushion, I remember. She was taking behind it, and she threw something out, and it was a dirty diaper. It came flying past me. I actually recorded it because I was recording the room at the time. And yeah, it was a dirty pamper with dry crap inside of it. So at this point, she's like, you gotta call Klassen. She gave us her number, and she wrote it down, thank God, because I didn't. And Klassen was very, very clear that if she got calls from the parents that we were fucking around like any of us, or we're sneaking out, or we call her there for no reason whatsoever, it's an automatic fail. We get shipped back home. And I was like, okay, well, I really hope we don't call her. And then this lady comes back, and this can't possibly be the room. We can't stay here. So I open the little string door, and they're both watching Fast and the Furious 2, still laughing their asses off. And I say, hey buddy, where's your phone? I should say, before I went and talked to them, I assumed they probably didn't have a phone. So this is how I always know, like, the area where this was. I told her there is a 7-Eleven like 2 blocks down the street that goes on that main street. That's actually Main. We can use a payphone there. I told her if they don't have a phone, and she agreed. That's what we were gonna do. But thank God they did. Well, I guess they did. He told me, yeah, it's in the kitchen. So I said, okay, great. I went in the kitchen, and the kitchen was surprisingly clean. I couldn't find no phone, so I looked back in the living room, and I said, where about in the kitchen? He said, oh, it's right next to the microwave. So I looked next to the microwave, and there was a little tiny LG flip phone sitting there. Except the screen was broken off. It was just the bin pad part of it. So I was like, this can't be it. So I took it, and I was like, how can you hear anything? Like, the top part of those old phones is where you could hear things like, the speaker was on the bottom. Sorry, the mic was on the bottom, the speaker was on top. So I'm like, I went in the living room, I said, this here? He says, yeah. And again, trying to be respectful. I'm like, okay, cool. I played it off, and I went into the bedroom and showed her. And she's like, what the fuck is that? I'm like, this is their phone, apparently. So we called Klassen together, and we could actually hear just from the very top. You can hear there's one little speaker. And I remember we had it between us. And it was about 10 rings. She wasn't answering because it was late, like 11:30, quarter to 12. And, she was like, no, you just keep calling. Stay on the line. Don't hang up. Whoops. Sorry about that. So we did. I stayed on the line, and eventually she picked up, and she was obviously in bed. As soon as she heard my voice and she knew who I was, she goes, oh God, Randy, what are you calling me for? I said, I'm sorry, I'm not fucking around calling you this. I think there's been a mistake. We're in a poor crack house, and we're literally sitting on a single mattress on a floor that's got dirty diapers in here, and I don't know, like, this lady's not here, the woman that's supposed to be here. And she was like, if you guys are fucking around, you're both getting an F. And then Angela talked and told her, no, Klassen, he's telling the truth, like, this is, and she's like, okay, well, I'm like 40 minutes away, so if I come there and this is a joke or something, you guys are both going home. So, like, okay, deal. So we sat there and waited, and nervously waiting to hear this Renee woman come home. Like, oh my God, because it wasn't her cell phone. She didn't have a cell phone. We called her house or landline. So there's no way we would be able to call her in a car and be like, you can turn around, she's home So at this point, she was sitting next to the wall. We were waiting, and she was picking off what she thought was dried paint chips on a wall. We were both sitting on that little mattress, and it wasn't. We figured out it was dry snot. Someone was wiping their snot on it. So sure enough, about 45 minutes later, I hear a knock at the door, and that Damon goes and answers it. Now it's like 12:30 at night on a Sunday night. There's school the next day. These kids are still up. No Renee. So I hear class and go, "Hi, I'm here with the students." And he was like, "Yeah, they're in that room." So she came and she opened up the door to the room and she stood there and we both were sitting in a bed and she looked around, she said, "Yeah, grab your bags, let's go." So we got our bags, we got in our vehicle, and we drove. She took us to the Viscount, which was quite a drive from there. Now, one of the things people always ask me, and honestly, I just thought about this recently, and I remember now. One of the things people ask me is, why would they put you and her together? Like, you guys are strangers, you guys are teenagers, and you're both opposite sex. How did this happen? Well, Clausen explained to us that this house we were to stay at was scouted out, and they normally never make mistakes like this. They prepay these people, actually, so she was probably spending that money, she figured. But they scout the house out and look to see if it's fitting, suitable for, students to stay for a week. But we were supposed to have our own rooms, is what she told us. We were supposed to each have a room with a single bed. And obviously that wasn't the case. I don't think there was enough rooms there. So we get to the Viscount. Now it's like 1 in the morning. And we check in, and all my Winnipeggers remember old Viscount from the 2000s. The lobby, the main lobby, was actually where that restaurant is now. And the VLTs and the lounge and everything was all like pretty much attached to the lobby. You could see all the slot machines and everything. And she was checking us in. She got us a 2-queen room. And Bill was there with a whiskey in his hand, and he was slotting, and he's seen us, and he came walking over. And I'm like, "You son of a bitch, this is why you wanted to leave us there so you can come here, have a drink, and fucking slot," because he was staying at the Viscount. And, everyone was laughing, and he was like, "Oh, what happened?" And we explained to him, "Fuck me, what happened? You left us at that fucking house." So we stayed the night there, and Bill was to drive us to our jobs the next morning, and then pick us up at the inn and take us to wherever we were going to stay. I thought we were going to be staying at the Viscount the whole week, honestly. And the next morning, after we both showered, we had to pack our bags and bring them with us. Bill drove us to our jobs, hers first, and she was at the air base in Winnipeg. That's where her job was. And then he drove me to Portage Place. Now, I will say this. I made a couple errors in judgment when I chose HMV for the purpose of meeting girls. I didn't realize that my working hours would be 9 to 5, and all the girls were in school still at that time, or just getting out of school right when I'm leaving. So the fact that I was downtown Winnipeg on Portage Place, this is where Portage Place Mall is, I really like that because I love cities. I love downtown metropolises, and this is about as close to a metropolis in Winnipeg as you'll get, the downtown Portage area. So I really loved that I was downtown in that area. I went in and I met all the staff at HMV. We'll go over all the staff here shortly, but first we got the first orientation day out of the way. I was a bit disappointed they didn't give me an HMV shirt. They didn't want me to have one in case something happened, so I was just wandering around. People thought I was an undercover security, I think. And the undercover security actually was a woman, big brunette woman, like ripped brunette woman, like muscular. Rebecca, I think her name was. I can't recall. I think it was Rebecca. But regardless, after work, it wasn't Bill that picked us up. It was Andrea. And her and Angela came into the HMV to pick me up because she picked her up first. And they drove us. And she was driving us to this new couple we were going to stay with, she said. They usually take kids because they do this program twice a year. But they had plans, and the plans fell through. So luckily for us, the plans fell through. They had plans, so they canceled. They opted out of not doing it this year. plans got cancelled, and then this incident happened, so they were willing to take us. So, it's a townhouse, and I always thought it was near the army barracks. There's a reason why I think that, and you guys will find out later. I just recently talked to one of them recently, and it wasn't. This is so fucking weird, you guys. So, we pull up to this townhouse, and she takes us inside, and this gentleman answers the door. And again, I'm changing names. Keith, his name was. And so, she introduces us to him. As soon as he opens the door, a cat runs past him outside, and I try to catch him. He says, no, it's okay, he's allowed to go out. And, he introduces himself as Keith, and she hugs him and says, thanks for helping us out, blah, blah, blah. And she says, okay, you guys are staying here now. And she left. Keith said, just leave your bags. Or maybe we took our bags. I think he took us straight to the room. And he walked us through the house, past the kitchen, and this guy was a Caucasian man, and there was a native guy in the kitchen making pizzas, and he said, this is Richard. He'll be our cook this evening. And I said, oh, hi, Richard. We both went into the bedroom. And it was a big bedroom. It was a double bed and a single bed. And I briefly remember him asking us if it was fine if we slept in the same room, if we were comfortable. And we both said, yeah, it's fine. I was thinking, oh, great, I'm going to be sleeping on a couch for sure. Because they had one more bedroom downstairs, but it was off limits, so I'll get to that later. And they had a study in a third bedroom upstairs. So we got to the room, closed the door, and we're like, okay. I told her, you go ahead, take the double, I'll take a single. And she said, no, we're here for 4 days, so we'll split it. I said, okay. She said, you want to take the first 2 days? And I said, yes, because I had a shit sleep the night before. So we unpacked, and we just kind of chilled and waited, and eventually, I almost said his name. Keith came, grabbed us. Yeah, okay, supper's ready. So we went and we sat in their living room. And Keith was sitting on one end of the table, Richard on the other, and me and her were sitting across. And these cats were all around us. They had cats named after Shakespearean characters. And I'm looking at pictures on a wall and everything, and I'm seeing pictures of Keith in a tuxedo with a bride. So I'm like, that's his wife, okay. Alright, that's probably his brother over there. And there's paintings of cats on a wall. I'm like, this guy really likes cats, him and his wife. So we go back to the bedroom. We're done eating. Every night we were there, we had a activity that we would do as a group. And this night was shopping. Everyone agreed they wanted to do shopping the first night, and including me. I wanted to get some clothes and get a fragrance for the week for HMV. So we were sitting in a room waiting for the vans, and we had magazines. Like, we're not just sitting there twiddling our thumbs. She kind of brought up to me, she says, I think those guys are gay. And I said, what? She goes, those guys, Keith and Richard, I think they're a couple. I says, no, I seen a picture of Keith with his wife on the wall. She goes, what? I go, yeah, no, I think his wife, she's not home yet. Keith and Richard, they're just buddies, I think. She goes, no, I'm telling you, I think they're a couple the way they were looking at each other. I'm like, no, you're crazy. Now, I gotta say, at the time, I was freshly 18. I grew up in the 90s. Millennial. I'm a very proud supporter of LGBT now. I have family that is a part of it. Friends as well. One of my best friends for a long time was. I celebrated 2 New Years back to back at Fame in Winnipeg. Great fucking time. And those people do know how to party. If you ever want to have a really fun time, go to a gay club for New Year's. It's a blast. But at the time, as an 18-year-old kid, I wouldn't say I was bigoted, but I was just uninformed. The prospect of those two being a couple made me nervous, like any idiot. I thought they were like, gay men were like lecherous and they'd be after me or something like that. That's the way I thought back then, as a kid. Just because I grew up in the 90s, everything, that stigma was always everyone was faggot this and you're gaylord this, and it's just the way everyone talked back then. Thank God it's not like that now. But I was like, no, he's definitely married to a woman. I seen the picture. So we went out shopping, and everybody wanted to go shopping at Polo Park, including me. I was like, I want to see this mall I missed out on. We ended up going to St. Vital because he said it'd be easier to round us up. So that was the very first time in my life I was ever in St. Vital Mall. Was when I was 18 in 2004. And we all did our shopping. Now, magazine. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was Maxim, and they had a fragrance sample in it back in Saskatchewan. And the fragrance I smelled was a fragrance called True Blue. I think it's the True Blue that's out now. I'm not sure. I'm debating buying it because it's cheap and just seeing if it is. But regardless, it smells exactly like Aquamarine by Bulgari. It's a very, very aquatic fragrance. In fact, the very first time I smelled this, I always think of that trip because it's exactly the fragrance I smelled from that magazine, and I wanted it badly. So I went straight to the Bay, and yeah, they had it, and I bought it. And I bought myself about 4 shirts, I think it was, and a couple jeans. And I was gonna wear that in HMV for the week. And yeah, that was it. We shopped, and then we all fucked off back to our houses. We all got dropped off. Went to sleep. And I remember in the morning, we had our bus routes by this point, I should say. In the morning, she actually woke me up. She had a towel around her waist, and in her hair, she just had her shower. She woke me up, and I remember opening my eyes and going, she was in her towel. And I'm like, what the hell? And she was like, come here, you gotta see this. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna follow the towel girl. So I went in the hallway, and she was at the end of the hallway where the other door was, like the master bedroom it was, and she had a door. It was a crack open because they leave their doors open because of the cats. They let the cats in and out, I guess. And she kind of opened it a bit more, and she was waving me over, like without saying anything. And I was like, what are you doing? I was telling her, no. And she's like, come here. So I went over there finally, and I looked into the door, and there was Keith spooning Richard. So yes, they were a couple, Keith and Richard. And I was like, oh wow, they really are a couple then. This is crazy. And she's like, yeah, I told you. And I'm like, oh my god, like I don't know if I could sleep tonight. And later that night, I'll skip ahead. In the middle of the night, we were just falling asleep. Othello, the cat's name was. He snuck into, he was in the room when we went to the room. We closed the door. He got under the covers, and his tail, as he was asleep, was flicking at my butt. And I freaked the fuck out and flipped the blankets up, and he went running out the door. I think they made us sleep with the doors open. I think it's because we're a male and female. I do remember the door always being open, and I don't like sleeping with open doors. But I think that's why. Regardless, the cat fucked off out of the room, and she woke up and said, "What the hell happened?" And I said, "Oh my god, the cat! It was that cat. It was his tail was flicking my butt, and I thought it was one of those guys under the blankets trying to pull my pants down, or my boxers down." And we just both couldn't stop laughing. We were laughing into our pillows. It was just so funny and so silly. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but Keith and Rich were amazing. Real good eye opener for a young, naive person like me. They were so nice, especially Keith. I could have really good talks with Keith and everything else. Really warm people. And I will say I didn't have nearly as badly as a stigma with LGBT at the time when I left there than when I went in there, for sure. I was a little more educated as well. But regardless, the very next day, we all took our buses and we went to work. I think these guys lived on the other side of Maine, the south side of Maine. I always remember it was a long stretch where the bus would drive, and then we would make a left turn, and I would be on Portage, and I think that's where I got off. And I would get onto the bus station right across the street on Portage every day. But HMV, my boss was a dude that looked exactly like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. His name was Chris Urbanowski. And he was just a burnout. Just didn't care, nonchalant. He was kind of like a yeah man kind of guy. And he had his shaggy hair. And there was a girl called Rachel, she was probably a year older than me, just graduated. Yeah, she was the drama. She had a boyfriend that she was still living with. That was her ex-boyfriend, and he was always at the store. They'd fight one day, they'd be laughing and going for lunch the next day. There was a skater guy named Josh. He had long hair with the nose ring and everything else, the skater pants and the long chain wallet. And there was my favorite guy. It was Ed. He worked in the back. He was the Mohawk heavy metal guy. So my days at HMV consisted of just organizing the shelves, bagging stuff at the front without working the till. And the second half of the day, later afternoon after lunch, I'd be in the back with Ed, and we would be putting plastic on CDs and DVDs and stuff. Now HMV in 2004 wasn't like HMV by the time it closed, or even Sunrise Records. Now there was no Funko Pops and collectibles and all this stuff. There was purely just DVDs, CDs, and movie posters. They had a little movie poster rack, and they had a rack of hoodies, like heavy metal hoodies, and that was it. It was a great place to work. I got to listen to music all day. Working there introduced me to Finnish love rock band. His and From Majesty, Phil Vallo's band. Their greatest hits album, And Love Said No, was actually released that month, and that was one of the CDs that was sampled the whole week I was there. I ended up buying it before I left. It was a fun place, man. They had CDs on a wall you could listen to. They had, headsets. You could sit there and listen to it. I did meet quite a bit of girls that were going through there, especially the girls that worked at, I can't remember what clothing store it was. Was it La Chateau? When I would eat lunch in Portage Place, the food area there, I'd talk with them once in a while when they were on lunch. I'd eat Vanelli's pizza every day, and I would sit at the window looking out towards Portage Avenue, and that's where those girls would sit, and I would chat with them once in a while if they were there. But it was a really decent place to work. Like I said, the Rachel thing was funny. Like, I remember going to Chris. At one point, they were fighting on a floor, and he was in the back, and I said, "Hey, Rachel and her ex are fighting out there, like they're arguing." And I remember he's like, "Yeah, man, they're a lot of drama," he says, and I'm like, "Dude, aren't you the manager? Like, you know how unprofessional this looks. Like, shouldn't you go out there and deal with it?" But he was such a fucking burnout. The days went by smooth. No real big stories actually at work. I told you I was able to figure out exactly when I was here. The reason why was I didn't know at the time, but retailers get movies for releases, especially at places like this where they have hardware for them, the week prior to the release. So that week I worked there, they had all the stuff for Tom Cruise's Last Samurai, which was out the following Tuesday. And they had cardboard cutouts to put the DVDs in and everything, and all of them had watched a copy of it by then, and I thought it was so cool they got to do that. And I looked online, I found their DVD release date, and I went back prior a week, and I'm like, there it is, April 25th to the 30th. It's right there. Now, another question I always get asked, especially with the living conditions, was, did I ever try to, or was I interested in that Angela at all? And no, I wasn't. First off, I was seeing a girl in Churchill at the time. She wasn't a girlfriend, but she was someone I was really fooling around with, and she was more attractive than Angela. And she was like really tomboyish. Actually, I showed her to my fiance on Facebook recently, and she's still really kind of tomboyish. She's not ugly by any means. She's pretty. She's got a beautiful family now, a couple kids and a husband, and a career really similar to what she was doing, trying to do with the military in the public service sector. She was 17, I think. I think that's one of the reasons they put us together too, is we were the oldest ones. She was 17, turning 18 in 2 months. She was going to be 18 when she graduated, which she was really excited about. She had like acne, and she would wear these nerdy glasses around the house with sweats, and then she would get real cleaned up with contacts and really tight jeans and nice outfits when we'd go out for our activities and evenings. But I actually met her over the years. She actually came to Thompson quite a bit, because Snow Lake's not that far from here. And yeah, I've talked to her over the years, seen her over the years. We always remember our trip together. But yeah, no, that was never, I don't know from her end, but for sure me, no. And I usually went to bed first. She usually stayed up and talked with them downstairs in the living room TV area. those guys had an office where they had a file sharing site. It was called Bear Share because Napster was gone by then. So we got to burn 2 CDs each. They had CDs to burn there. And one thing of note was they had a room down there that they told us the whole house is ours, but this room is off limits. And it's off limits because it belongs to a young man that works at the army base. And when he's not working there, he lives here and it's all his stuff in there. So that's the only place that's off limits and it had a lock on it. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. It's someone else's place. Before I get to that, I wanted to make sure you guys knew about that one little fact. This is where, it's one of my funniest stories and one of my most, it could definitely be a comedy bit. So, if there's anything that's going to make you laugh, it's going to be this. It's by far one of my funniest stories, most embarrassing as well. On my way on the bus route, on my way to HMV every day, there's a four-way where a lady gets off every day. And at this four-way, there is a Robin's Donuts, there's a Mr. Sub, and there was a porn shop. Now, I was an 18-year-old guy at the time, and I was living in Churchill that we had no internet, we had dial-up internet. I needed pornography, something, because I'm stuck up in the Arctic, for God's sake. So I knew that if the opportunity came, I was going to try to buy myself a couple DVDs, I thought, because I had like $100. I'm like, I'll buy a couple. I'm so stupid. Anyone that's ever bought a porn DVD from those big companies knows they're like $100 each. But I didn't know better. And every day we would stop there, I'd look at it and go, damn, I wish I could just jump off and, go and buy a movie and then just go back to work. So my second last day, we stopped there again. I made a plan. Because Friday was our last shift. And it was only half a day. So I was like, you know what I'm going to do on Friday? I'm going to get off this stop, run into that place, buy my movie, get back to the bus bench, and hop on the next bus. It's probably like 50 minutes later. I'll walk across the street to Robbins. I can see, because I scouted from the window, there's a payphone in there. I'll call and tell them I missed my bus. It's like I actually work there. So that's what I did the Friday. I was just nervous because that lady wasn't there. I had to do the stop for the bus. And I got out. And it was 8 o'clock. I know it was 8 because as soon as I went to the store, I realized, oh my God, it's closed. It doesn't open till 9. So I'm like, oh my God, what a waste this was. Now I'm going to be late for nothing. So I went to the Robins and I called, and my buddy Ed answered from the back. And I said, yo, Ed, I missed my bus. I'm going to be late. And he says, that sucks when that happens, man. Okay, I'll let Chris know. So I went back to the bus bench and I sat there and I waited. 5-10 minutes went by. I'm like, there's a different number of buses that are just passing me by. I'm like, where the hell is this bus? Finally, I looked at the sign that's there. It took me that long to realize. And I was looking for the next time my bus number came, and it was every hour it comes. I'm like, oh my God, it's not coming till 9. It's 20 after, It's the end of April in Winnipeg. It's still cold, so I'm sitting there kind of cold. I'm going in and out of Robbins and Mr. Sub trying to warm up. And eventually it's like 1:45. I go back to the bench. I'm laughing, thinking, oh, what's coming? So I'm sitting there and I get an idea. I'm like, look, this bus might not get here right at 9. That place might open at 9. I still might be able to get my movie and then catch my bus. So I'm like, that's what I should do. If my bus comes here before 9 or right around 9, I'll just hop on. But if it's not here and that place is open, and then I came with the bright idea of, you know what I should do? I should go look in the window and see if I can make out what those DVDs are, because I kind of took a glance in there when I seen it was closed, and I could see they had a wall of DVDs. So I got up and I went towards the store, and the sun was glaring off of the window, so I couldn't see inside. I should say that the movie I was looking for, ironically, is this poster right here. Brianna Loves Jenna or Jenna Loves Brianna, whatever it was called. Because I don't know anything about porn movies. And that poster, it's a pop culture thing from the 2000s. It was everywhere. It was in every San Francisco store, or a Spencer's as they're called now. Every, like, Hot Topic. It was in every fucking store, that poster. It was in The Sopranos. It was everywhere. And those are two of the biggest porn stars in the world, including, they're two of my favorites growing up as a teenager. I love Jenna Jameson and Brandon Banks. So I was like, it'd be awesome to get that DVD. That's the DVD I was after. So I went to the window, and the sun was glaring, so I put my hands up to the window, and I was looking inside, trying to make out. I couldn't really make anything out. And in my not paying attention, unawareness is what I'm looking for, the word. A car was pulling up, and it pulled up like to the right of me, where like Mr. Sub was at. And I heard a car door close, and I remember I was looking inside, and I put my hands down, and I looked, and it was this beautiful young woman with blue hair. I always remember she had blue hair, and she didn't look much older than me. And she started walking up the sidewalk towards me, and I put my hood up and my hands in my pocket, and I walked towards, like I was going towards Robbins. And I got to the four-way, and I looked back, and fuck, she was opening the shop. I'm like, oh my god. She caught me looking inside there, and that was embarrassing. I was like, okay, well, I definitely can't go in there now. So I went back, and I sat at the bus bench, and I'm going, okay, it's like 5 to 9 now. I'm like, Jesus. I'm like, that was embarrassing. And now it's 9 o'clock, and I see her turn the sign on. And my bus still isn't there. I'm looking down the road, and I can't see a bus. And I'm like, alright, Grock. You're only in Winnipeg this one time. You'll probably never be back here ever again, because God knows how long you're going to be in Churchill. You're never going to see this person again. Swallow your pride. Swallow your dignity. And just go and get your movie. So I went into the store. I was so fucking embarrassed, and I went straight to the wall of DVDs. She was still just unpacking her shit from her backpack, and I couldn't find that DVD at all as I was glancing, and I wanted to get the hell out of there. One, I was rushing because I wanted to make sure I got my bus, and two, I was just embarrassed. So I grabbed the first movie I could find that was either one of them, and it was a Jenna Jameson movie, and it was a fucking terrible movie. It was called The Wicked One. It was just crap scenes, and she actually did like her own soundtrack. She sang the song. It was such a bad movie. And I bought it, and it was like $90 total with taxes. I couldn't believe it. And I remember I got out of the store, and my bus was right there. It was parked. I ran, and I caught it. So I ran out of the porn shop with my black bag, waving at the bus to wait for me. Oh my god, Archie joined me, heard me laughing, so he figured he'd come and check it out. Now he's sniffing my finals vault box. There's nothing there, Archie. So I went to work, and a secondary embarrassing thing is I was an hour late for work. And when I got there, I walked into HMV, the alarms went off, because that DVD had a security magnet thing on it, so the alarm started beeping, and I just walked like I pretended I couldn't hear it, and went straight to the back. I went to the bathroom, I opened up the DVD, and I pulled that thing out. So yeah, that was it. And then my boss came, or Bill came to pick me up at noon, and then we ended up going to the airport. Now they couldn't pay me at HMV because I wasn't an actual employee, so what they did was really nice. They all picked out a CD for me. There was like 8 CDs I got out of it, like a box of CDs, and they all picked out something they liked, and Ed got me, which was the nicest thing. Ed got me Damage Plan, the Abbott Brothers' new band after Pantera broke up, and I didn't even know they had a new band. It was a great album. What happened that morning, though, and this is what gets back to that room, she actually had a later day too, so she didn't leave until I left. We both left the house together. I should say I always had half an hour in the house by myself. No one was in the house for half an hour, and so I'd have the place to myself. And then she actually was there with me for that half hour that one day, because her shift didn't start till late and she got picked up earlier too. So, I was just waiting around, like what we could do to kill time in between, whatever, when we just were together. Aside from bullshitting or talking here and there, we'd be reading our magazines. I had a bunch of Maxims and FHMs and all that stuff, and then she had like Cosmos and shit. We would just read our magazines. She came and grabbed me. She said, "Hey, come here. I got something to show you." So I went with her. We went downstairs in the basement, and she walked over. She had a butter knife with her, and she said, "Come here. I want to get in this room." And I said, "The guy's room that the guy that stays with them." She goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Why are you?" She goes, "Oh, I just want to see what's in there." I'm like, "What? There's nothing in there. It's this guy's like stuff. Like this guy who lives there. So if you can hear Archie scratching himself." I'm like, "Why?" And so I'm watching her, and she's jimmying the side of the like where the latch is, getting the knife, and they're trying to open it. And she opened it. She got the door open. I'm like, "Oh my god!" Now inside this room was just a bed with no bed frame and no blankets or anything. It was just a sheet, and there was a CD rack with like 10 CDs in it, and that was it. And there was a dresser. And so as soon as we both walked in there, I said, "Oh, I guess there's nothing. Yeah, this guy, just this room." She goes, "Oh," and she casually like kind of opened a couple drawers, like she was looking around. I'm like, "What is she doing?" And I was like, "Okay, there's nothing here." And she opened up the closet, and the closet had all their toys and their outfits and everything. And this is why they didn't want us going in there. So she was laughing her ass off. I was kind of embarrassed, going, "Oh my god, these guys are so nice. Why would we break in here?" Like, this is one of the reasons why. Like, I'm hiding people's names. But yeah, that's what happened with that. And we ended up going to the same boardroom we got before for the airport, and we had a final meeting, with everyone. And then we got on our planes, and the only people got in the vans. I hugged, I almost said her name again. I hugged Angela goodbye, and I think one of those guys was her boyfriend. To be honest with you, I can't recall it. He seemed really jealous. We were friends though, and I think he was her boyfriend. I don't know, not her husband now, it was someone else. But I hugged Clausen goodbye. We were kind of buddies by then after everything we went through. And I got on my plane and we left. And yeah, I guess I got a passing grade, but that's one of those stories. What's really fucking strange is there's over 1 million people in Winnipeg population. Around 1 million people. I bought a cabin, as you guys are all aware, at Paint Lake Provincial Park. And one day I was driving there this summer with my fiance, and we drove past this guy walking his dogs. We went around him, and she said, "Oh, that's so and so, their dad's neighbors, like two cabins down." I said, "Oh," he goes, "Yeah, that's Keith and Richard, their dogs." And I was like, "Oh, I used to know Keith and Richard." I said, she goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, they were a gay couple." And she says, "Yeah, Keith and Richard are gay. They're a couple." I'm like, a native guy and a white guy this was. She goes, "Yeah, Keith's white and Richard's native." I'm like, "What? Do they have cats?" She goes, "I don't know. They have like 3 dogs though." I'm like, "Oh my god." The one day they were walking their dogs, and I looked and it was them. I was like, how the fuck? Because I've been telling this story for years to all my friends, this embarrassing story with these poor guys that, their closet was found, from this girl. And now they're my neighbors to the lake. It's fucked up. That's why I don't want to use names or anything here, but it's a small world, man. But yeah, guys, that's my story. I told the story over the holidays, and I got a lot of laughs, and I was like, I wonder if I should add it's the Grock stories. I got a ton of stories like this, you guys. I'm full of fucking stories. As far as my embarrassment at the porn shop goes, my girlfriend's aunt kind of soothed things over for me and said, "Believe me, if she's worked there a long time, she's probably seen a lot worse or a lot weirder things than what you did." Yeah. So with that said, guys, that's gonna be it for this video. I'm gonna try to get I'm gonna try to get the spooky stories out. I think on Thursday night. That's gonna be my nighttime project before I work Friday night because I gotta stay up all night Thursday. But with that being said, guys, have a great day, great night, whatever it may be, and peace out.